Welcome in, everyone. Today, we're diving deep, into kind of like the lasting impact of what it means to grow up with an alcoholic parent.
Hmm.
We know this might be like a really personal topic, maybe bring up some stuff for some of you. So please know this is a safe space for, us to all explore these complex dynamics together.
Absolutely.
We're going to be unpacking some, I think, really eye-opening excerpts focusing on the experiences of adult children of alcoholics,
Yeah.
ACOA, it's sometimes called for short.
Right.
And while alcohol might be our like starting point here, kind of the thing we're focusing on today,
Mm.
we'll also see how these patterns, how these things that happen can show up in other types of dysfunctional families too. It's not just about the alcohol.
Yeah, that's so important to remember that it's like about recognizing the broader patterns of family dynamics.
Exactly, yeah. I think it's easy to think about alcoholism as just like an individual struggle. It's just one person's problem, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is like it ripples outward. I mean, it really
Yeah.
does affect entire families,
Absolutely.
Millions, literally millions of children grow up witnessing the effects of alcohol abuse firsthand.
Right.
And those experiences, they can leave a lasting imprint.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that this impact often shows up is through a set of common traits that a lot of adult children of alcoholics find themselves relating to.
Yeah.
And it's often called the laundry list.
Ah, yes. The laundry list, right. It's funny. When I first like stumbled across this, it was literally like reading my own biography. I'm serious.
Yeah.
It was uncanny. Like fear of anger and authority figures. Hey, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
It was weirdly comforting, but also kind of alarming, to see these tendencies that I just thought were like me,
Yeah. Yeah.
just quirks about me
Right.
spelled out like as a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is remarkable, isn't it? It speaks to just how deeply these early experiences can shape us. For instance, one trait that often pops up is this constant need for approval,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes to the point where you even lose yourself a little bit. You know, have you ever noticed that tendency in yourself? Maybe in ways that surprise you?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's like this drive to like please everyone, to never rock the boat, avoid conflict at all costs. Like I've definitely been there.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about the environment where it came from, right?
Yeah.
Growing up with an alcoholic parent often means living in a world where approval is inconsistent. You don't always know when it's coming or what you have to do to get it.
Right.
Or it can be very conditional.
Right.
So you learn to adapt. You learn to people pleasers as a way to just navigate that unpredictability.
Right. Because keeping the peace, even at your own expense, becomes like a coping mechanism.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's another big one, confusing love with pity.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure many of us have fallen into that trap at some point.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been drawn to people who need fixing,
Right.
thinking that was somehow love.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a subconscious replay of those childhood dynamics, even when we're adults with theoretically more awareness. When you've grown up witnessing suffering, feeling responsible for a parent's well-being, you can start to associate love with caretaking.
Yeah.
Even when it's unhealthy, you're drawn to rescuing others because it feels familiar, even if it means neglecting your own needs.
Right. You're trying to fix them.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like how much we just pick up from when we were kids,
Yeah.
Even if it's not like the best stuff, the healthiest stuff.
Right.
It's like these patterns, they just get like ingrained in us without us even knowing it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is that researchers have actually delved even deeper into these dynamics. Like it's not,
Yeah.
it goes beyond just alcoholism.
Huh?
Our source mentions a Dr. Janet Woititz, who really expanded on this whole concept.
Right. Dr. Woy did. She was
Yeah.
like a real pioneer in the field of adult children of alcoholics, right?
Absolutely.
So what did she bring to the table, so to speak?
Well, Dr. Voiditz recognized that while the laundry list was like incredibly insightful,
Yeah.
it didn't tell the whole story.
Oh, okay.
She pointed out that these traits, the fear of authority figures, the people pleasing, they weren't exclusive to children of alcoholics. They could stem from any type of dysfunctional family system.
So it's not just about the alcohol itself, but about the impact of like that dysfunction, that chaos on a kid's development.
Precisely. Voigt's actually expanded the list, adding like more nuances, highlighting how these patterns show up in families grappling with, other issues too,
Okay.
like gambling, drug abuse, even chronic illness in a parent.
That makes a lot of sense because whether it's alcohol or something else, like that unpredictability you were talking about, that constant tension in the home, it creates like a chaotic environment for a child to grow up in.
Exactly, yeah. And that chaos is the breeding ground for these traits.
Wow.
Let's take that trait we discussed earlier, confusing love with pity. If you grew up feeling responsible for a parent's emotional well-being, whether it was because of their alcoholism or some other issue, you might find yourself drawn to partners who need rescuing later in life.
Oh, wow.
It's like you're unconsciously recreating that familiar dynamic.
It's like a subconscious echo or something like that of those early relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why, I mean, this is huge, right? This is why understanding these patterns is so crucial. Like it helps us break free from those cycles.
Absolutely. When we can look at our behaviors and see, okay, this is where that's coming from,
Yeah, yeah.
it gives us a chance to actually make different choices.
It's about like understanding that these tendencies, these things that we do, they might stem from those early experiences, not some inherent flaw in us.
Yeah,
Right? Like it's not I'm broken. It's, oh, this is a pattern I learned.
Right.
And like you said, knowledge is power in these situations, right?
Absolutely.
And that brings us to like, okay, so what do we do with this knowledge?
Right.
And thankfully, our source doesn't just leave us hanging,
Right.
It actually dives into like support systems, resources, things that can actually help.
Yeah, that's so important because, just recognizing these patterns is really just the first step, right?
Wow.
Having like actual support on the journey is crucial, especially when you're dealing with, the emotional weight of these experiences.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about like those lifelines, those resources you were just mentioning. Our source really like emphasizes the importance of, finding support, especially through groups, like specifically ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics.
Right.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
ACA provides this like incredible space for people to like connect, share their experiences with others who like truly get it. Right.
Yeah.
Who understand what it was like to grow up in a household that was impacted by alcoholism.
Absolutely, yeah. And what I find so powerful about ACA and similar groups, is that it normalizes these experiences. It's like you're not some anomaly, with a messed up past or something.
Yeah.
You're in a room full of people who get those, those same weird quirks, those same like emotional landmines.
Right. Really. They lived it too,
Well, what I love about what our source says about ACA and these types of groups is it's about moving forward. It's not about like dwelling in the blame or the guilt.
Right.
It's about understanding how those early experiences shaped you and like learning healthier ways to cope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To build relationships.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself with self-awareness and tools for growth, so you can actually move on.
Totally. And ACA is fantastic, but it's not the only game in town.
Right.
Like our source lists a bunch of other organizations that are like doing amazing work in this field, right?
Right.
Like there's Al-Anon,
which focuses more on supporting like families and friends of alcoholics. So it could be helpful for, those who, even if they weren't the child in that situation,
right,
but are dealing with the after effects, in their own relationships maybe.
Right. And Al-Anon is like really big on learning to like detach with love.
Oh, yeah.
Setting healthy boundaries, something that a lot of people from these backgrounds, really struggle with.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and then there's in ACOA, the National Association for Children of Alcoholics.
Yes.
They do a lot of like raising awareness, advocating for, for children affected by alcoholism.
So they're a good resource. Like, even if you're not ready to, like, go to a meeting or anything, they've got like resources and information on their website and stuff, right?
Exactly.
And I think it's important to remember that seeking support in whatever form that takes for you, it's not a sign of weakness, right? If anything, it's a sign of strength, right?
No, absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to like face those deep-seated patterns and choose like a different path.
Couldn't agree more. Well, wow, we've covered like a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We explored the lasting impact of growing up in a dysfunctional family, particularly, with an alcoholic parent. We talked about how those experiences can like create certain patterns in our lives.
Yeah.
We unpacked the whole laundry list thing, right?
Right.
We talked about Dr. Wojciech's incredible contributions to all this, this whole field of study.
And maybe, like most importantly,
Yeah.
we highlighted that there is hope, there's
Yeah.
help, and there is a whole lot of understanding out there.
I love that. A whole lot of understanding. That's huge.
Right.
That's really what it's all about. So to our listener, wherever you're at with all of this, thank you for coming on this journey with us.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope this deep dive, empowers you to better understand yourself, understand, your own unique path.
Absolutely.
And, as you kind of move forward from here,
Yeah.
think about this. How might understanding these patterns help you set healthier boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
create more fulfilling relationships in your life?
Yeah.
That's a big question. Lots to think about. Until next time, take care.